Hey everyone, this is John Howe here with another episode of John's Top Tips. Today we are talking about year-end IRA tips. Now, usually when people think about IRA tips, they think, oh man, we got to talk about contributions. No, we're not talking about contributions today. Contributions won't really be a topic until we're around our tax filing deadline. For the end of the year purposes, what we're talking about in terms of IRAs are actually typically distributions. So one of the first things that we're going to look out for at the end of the year here is RMDs, or your required minimum distributions. These are for those of us who are age 72 or older, or who inherited an IRA from a non-spouse before 2020. So what happens here is you have to take, according to tax law, a certain amount of your IRA or your 401k or 403b as a distribution before the end of the tax year. You might remember, those of you who were 72 or in this situation last year, that you didn't have to take an RMD last year because of some of the COVID relief that was passed. Well, this year required minimum distributions are back. And you're going to want to make sure that you get those required minimum distributions out before December 31st. Otherwise, the half of what you don't distribute actually gets penalized and it gets sent directly to the government. So we definitely want to take care of that, make sure it gets done, because we want to keep as much money in our own pockets and not the government's, right? Tip number 2 is consider some Roth conversions. There are actually a few niche little circumstances where converting from some traditional IRA or 401k dollars into a Roth account actually makes a lot of sense. These are typically situations where you're in a low tax bracket for 1 year for one reason or another. And you might have an advantageous tax situation. This is something you're going to want to talk to your tax preparer about. And you're definitely going to want to talk to your financial advisor about it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. We can kind of take a look at your plan and see if there might be an opportunity for that. If not, then it's at least something to be aware of. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about is IRA distributions. Now, this might make sense to some people, but other people might not have thought about it yet. Well, if we have something like a big purchase that we're going to have to make maybe in 2022 or even 2023, what we can do is we can spread out that tax liability over a couple of years. If we know that money is going to have to come from our retirement accounts, and we're retired and we're already taking distributions, well, instead of taking one big chunk in 1 year and realizing a whole bunch of tax in that particular tax year, what we can do is we can actually spread the tax liability out by taking a portion of the distribution by the end of this year, and then a portion of the distribution for next year. If we have that expense in 2022, if it's in 2023, then we can still employ it, and we can just keep going year by year by year. So those are just some tips that we have. If you want to check out more of my tips, I actually have written a blog about this. Be sure to check out our website, gencapmgmt.com. You can go to our resources tab, check out the blog, and then you can see here we've got all sorts of different tips that get into a little bit more detail for you in case I moved a little bit too fast. So again, I'm John Howe. I'm the financial planner here at Generation Capital Management, and this was John's Top Tips.